You were financially useless. My name is Marcus Thompson, 32 years old, and I run a software development company in Austin, Texas. Those words came from my wife Elena as she packed her bags, moving in with my business partner Jake. She had no idea that 3 days earlier I'd just signed a deal to sell my startup for $800,000. I stared at the divorce papers on my kitchen table, watching Elena load designer bags into Jake's BMW. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. For 2 years, she'd dismissed my work as playing with computers while I built something real. "This startup thing isn't working, Marcus," she'd said countless times. "Jake understands business. He makes actual money." Jake had been my partner for 3 years. We'd started Thompson Rivera Tech Solutions together, developing custom software for small businesses. While I handled the technical side, Jake managed sales and client relations. At least that's what I thought he was doing. What I didn't know was that Jake had been feeding Elena a steady stream of lies about our company's finances, telling her we were failing, that I was a dreamer, that real success required his kind of business savvy. The truth was different, very different. 3 months ago, a major tech corporation had approached us about acquiring our proprietary inventory management software. The negotiations had been confidential. Only I knew the full scope because I developed the core technology myself. Jake knew we were in talks, but I'd kept the dollar amounts private until the deal was certain. Standard practice in tech acquisitions. You don't count money until it's in the bank. Last week, the contracts were signed. $800,000 for the company plus a 3-year consulting agreement worth another $200,000. Jake's share would be substantial. We'd always split profits 60-40, reflecting my majority ownership and technical contributions. But Jake had gotten impatient and Elena had gotten greedy. "I need stability, Marcus," she'd explained as she chose Jake over me. "He's successful. You're still chasing pipe dreams." I'd simply nodded and wished them happiness. Sometimes the best response is no response at all. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Rebecca Martinez, and scheduled an emergency meeting. The acquisition paperwork needed to be restructured now that my business partnership was ending. "This complicates things," Rebecca said, reviewing the contracts. "Jake's stake in the company affects the sale." "Actually, it doesn't," I replied, pulling out a folder I'd kept locked in my desk. "Check Section 12 of our original partnership agreement." Rebecca read carefully, her eyebrows rising. "Dissolution due to personal misconduct forfeits profit-sharing rights?" "I wrote that clause specifically," I explained. Jake signed it without reading the fine print. He was too eager to get started making money. "And you have evidence of personal misconduct?" I handed her my phone showing text messages between Jake and Elena dating back 6 months. Messages discussing how to manage Marcus out of his own company, how to convince me to sell my shares cheap, how they'd been planning this together while sharing my bed and my business secrets. "Corporate espionage and adultery," Rebecca nodded approvingly. "That's definitely misconduct." The meeting with Jake came 2 days later. He strutted into our office like he owned it, clearly expecting to collect his windfall from the acquisition. "Marcus, buddy, I heard the deal closed." Jake grinned, extending his hand. "When do we get our checks?" "About that," I said, not taking his hand. "We need to discuss some changes to the partnership structure." His smile faltered. "What kind of changes?" I slid the dissolution paperwork across my desk. "The kind where you forfeit your stake due to misconduct." Jake's face went white as he read. "You can't do this. I have rights." "You had rights," I corrected, "until you decided to steal my wife and my business secrets." "That's ridiculous. Elena chose me because I'm successful. Elena chose you because you lied to her about our finances while planning to steal my company." I pulled out the printed text messages. Jake's face crumpled as he recognized his own words. "How about this?" I continued conversationally. "You can contest the dissolution in court, which will take years and cost you everything you have in legal fees. Or you can sign the papers, take your personal belongings, and disappear quietly. This is extortion, Jake sputtered. This is consequences, I replied. You chose to betray a partnership. Partnerships have contracts. Contracts have clauses. Jake signed the papers with shaking hands. 3 hours later, Elena called. Marcus, Jake is acting strange, she said. He keeps talking about lawyers and contracts. What did you do? I dissolved our business partnership, I said simply. But the company was starting to make money, Elena protested. Jake said you guys were finally succeeding. The company sold for $800,000 last week. Silence. What? Elena's voice was barely a whisper. The acquisition closed 3 days before you left me, I explained. Jake's misconduct forfeited his share. The entire amount is mine. I could hear her breathing heavily. 800,000? Plus a consulting contract worth another 200,000 over 3 years. More silence. Marcus, I made a mistake, Elena said finally. I was confused. Jake was very convincing about our financial problems. What financial problems? I asked. We never had financial problems. He said the company was failing, that you were in denial about bankruptcy. Elena, we've been profitable for 2 years. I've been paying our mortgage, your car payment, and your credit cards without ever missing a payment. What financial problems? I could hear her crying now. I thought Jake showed me fake documents, said you were hiding debt from me. The pieces clicked into place. Jake hadn't just stolen my wife. He'd manipulated her with lies to justify his theft. Where is Jake now? I asked. He left an hour ago, Elena sobbed. Packed everything and said he had to handle some business emergency. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was already calling my bank to put a hold on any accounts Jake might have access to. Too late, as it turned out. He'd emptied our business checking account, $23,000, and disappeared. If you're enjoying watching business partnerships explode in real time, make sure to subscribe, because Jake's about to learn that stealing from the wrong person has serious consequences. The FBI got involved 2 weeks later, not because of the $23,000, that was civil matter, but because Jake had used our company's client database to attempt identity theft, trying to access business credit lines using stolen information. Agent Sarah Collins sat in my office reviewing the evidence. Mr. Rivera left quite a trail, she said. Fraudulent loan applications, identity theft, interstate fraud. We've tracked him to 3 different states. Any chance of recovering the stolen funds? I asked. The $23,000 is long gone, Agent Collins replied, but his other activities have been lucrative. We've frozen approximately $200,000 in accounts linked to his fraud scheme. 200,000? Your ex-partner has been busy using client information to create fake businesses, applying for loans and credit lines, very sophisticated operation. I shook my head. While I'd been building legitimate software, Jake had been learning how to steal. There's more, Agent Collins continued. We think your wife might have been unknowingly involved. Some of the fake businesses list her as a co-owner. My blood ran cold. Elena was many things, but not a criminal. She was manipulated, I said. Jake convinced her I was broke while he was planning these schemes. That's what we're thinking too. She's agreed to cooperate fully with our investigation. Elena's cooperation led to Jake's arrest 3 months later. He was caught trying to use fake identification to open another business account in Nevada. The federal charges included wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. I testified at his trial, explaining how Jake had used his position as my business partner to access sensitive client information. The prosecution painted a clear picture. Jake had planned to steal everything: my wife, my business, my clients' identities. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison. Elena and I divorced quietly, no contest, no alimony demands. She'd learned the truth about Jake's manipulation, but the betrayal couldn't be undone. She moved back to her hometown in Colorado, taking a job at a local marketing firm. I bought a house in the hills outside Austin with my acquisition money, used the rest to start a new company, this time keeping full ownership and control. The consulting contract with the acquiring corporation led to more opportunities. Within a year, I was developing software for major retailers, helping them optimize their supply chains. The new company was valued at over $2 million. 6 months after Jake's sentencing, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Elena, postmarked from Colorado. "Marcus," she wrote, "I know I have no right to contact you, but I needed you to know something. I found documents Jake had hidden in our apartment, forged bank statements showing your company was failing. Fake emails supposedly from clients threatening to leave. He'd created an entire fictional narrative about your business problems to convince me you were unreliable. I believed him because I trusted him. That was my mistake. Not trusting you was my bigger mistake. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. You were never financially useless. You were building something real while the rest of us were chasing illusions." I read the letter twice, then filed it away. Elena was right. She'd thrown away something real for something fake, but her letter brought closure I hadn't realized I needed. A year later, I was featured on the cover of Austin Business Journal as Entrepreneur of the Year. The article detailed my journey from betrayed partner to successful solo founder. They interviewed several clients who praised our software solutions and customer service. The reporter asked about Jake and Elena. "Do you ever regret how things ended?" I thought about the question carefully. "I regret that people I trusted chose to betray that trust," I said finally. "But their choices led me to build something better than I ever imagined." Success isn't about avoiding betrayal. It's about not letting betrayal define your future. 2 years after the acquisition, my new company was acquired by an even larger corporation for $3.2 million. This time I kept full ownership until the sale. No partners to steal from me, no one to manipulate my decisions. The day the sale closed, I drove past my old office where Thompson Rivera Tech Solutions used to operate. There was a new company there now, a small accounting firm. The dreams Jake and I had shared were gone, but something better had taken their place. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so successful that your betrayer's petty theft looks pathetic by comparison. I thought about Elena's words. "You were never financially useless." She was right. I was financially independent, technologically innovative, and personally free from people who measured my worth in dollars rather than character. Jake served 6 years of his 8-year sentence before being released on parole. By then, my new company had grown to 50 employees and expanded into international markets. He'd stolen $23,000 and gotten 8 years in prison. I'd lost a wife and partner but gained $1 million business and peace of mind. The math was simple. Honest work builds wealth, theft builds prison sentences. 3 years later, I married Sarah, a fellow entrepreneur who ran her own marketing consultancy. She understood the startup world, respected my work, and never once called me financially useless. At our wedding reception, my best man joked about how I'd upgraded from a wife who didn't believe in me to one who invests in my dreams. I laughed, but the joke contained a deeper truth. Elena had seen my work as worthless because she measured value in immediate returns. Sarah saw potential because she understood that real success takes time to build. The final irony came 5 years after everything started. Elena reached out through mutual friends asking if I knew of any job opportunities in Austin's tech sector. She'd moved back to Texas and wanted to work in the industry that had made me successful. I declined to help, not out of spite, but out of principle. Success isn't charity. It's earned through loyalty, integrity, and the patience to build something real. Sometimes the people who call you financially useless are simply revealing their own inability to recognize value. And sometimes proving them wrong is worth more than any apology they could offer. The startup Jake tried to steal is long gone, sold and integrated into a larger corporation. But the principles that built it, innovation, integrity, and persistence, those became the foundation for everything that followed. Jake learned that stealing is temporary, building is permanent. Elena learned that judging worth by immediate profits means missing long-term value. And I learned that betrayal, however painful, can become the catalyst for achievements beyond anything the betrayers could imagine. In the end, the only person who was truly financially useless was the one who chose theft over honest work. The math doesn't lie, and neither do federal sentencing guidelines.